King Canada is King Aaron Thompson. Congratulations, Aaron. I just, while people sing congratulations and all the well wishes, it is a very good thing to have a national election for these offices. We're a member-driven organization, and having the members choose the leaders of the association is what makes us stronger and moves this association forward. So it's a really good thing when we can do this. And I know next year we'll be seeing another NDP campaign, and that's a really good thing where you're having elections for the top positions in this association. That means members believe in the course we're on, and this roadmap that we have is a roadmap to success. So thank you to everyone that took part of this process. Now at this time, I'd like to offer JM the opportunity to come here and address the convention.
I am kin, you are kin, we are kin. I'm happy for Aaron. Congratulations. We will move on and we'll do our best for the association. I would like to say thank you to my crew, Kim Baird, who was my manager or campaign manager. And I would like to say thank you to Kinsman and Connect Club Cornwall, who helped me financially. I would like to say thank you to all the members and the districts that I visited. It was a great experience. I've developed, I've learned, I've grown, and I'm done. I am not done. Because you didn't hear what I said. Ken is starting my heart. And I'll see you next year and any other time we meet. Thank you.
Elevator music going on in the room. So. Okay, thank you very much. Well, it's my distinct honor to introduce you to, and you already know her, the National Vice President of King Canada, Aaron Thompson.
I am because we are. standing on the shoulders of giants. We are none of us here on our own, nor am I especially. I want to say thank you so much to JM. When there's actually an election, it gives you a choice. And he and I were able to sharpen each other. We made each other better. And in Kin, that's exactly what we're supposed to do. So please say one more thank you to JM, because without him, it's going to happen. JM, we need you. We need what you have. And I know that we will use you. And abuse you, probably. Thank you. I'm not going to save the best for last. Because Kin means family, and I thank mine. I'm a Kin kid. The year that my mother was the president of the Connect-Clonmactibans was the year that I was born. So I truly have been in Kin for longer than my 43 years. That's what helps us to get here. My father has told me many times that Kin gets into your blood, but it takes up residence in your heart. It's because of my family that I'm able to be here and serve my community and to now truly serve Kin. One of the biggest parts of that is my very sweet husband, who is my partner in life and crime, Pete. You are the best. You will never be the last. To my family in D8, I cannot express the work you guys did this weekend. All of the behind the scenes things that go into putting on a Cirque du Soleil carnival in the middle of a convention, they did that. They encouraged me, they got me here. To the people who have helped teach and foster and push and grow and put the bug in your ear, I thank each and every one of them. To the people who publicly supported me today and privately gave me words of encouragement, thank you so much. Trust me, I am shaking. I've been shaking this entire time, but because of your words and your kindness, I was able to put that aside and truly do what you needed me to do. I started my speech today about gratitude. And again, I will end off with that. Thank you, Kin Canada, for all that you do and for giving me the opportunity and the joy of doing it with you.
Sergeant of Arms, do you want 2 minutes, or? I'm sure you do. I know it's living. Put a mic in the room. Look at him.
All right, Mr. President, thank you very much. We've got a pretty good crew of lobster over there for a time being. Some of them have been in a little long and are a bit stale, longer than we thought they'd be, for sure, certainly. Kimpton, I think, is prisoner Kimpton. You're about $70 away from the homeland, I think. So if anybody from Saskatoon wanted to help a buddy out, you'd be helping us out to get him out, if you know what I'm saying. Pain in the ass, prisoner. We are, John, where are we at? Is that the current total, 18,374%? Is that the current total, John? It is. 74%. Well, I know a way that we could probably bump that up. Sergeant at Arms Dean and Rob, would you please find the St. Albert boys? St. Albert, Kinsman and Kin, would you please stand up and be recognized? Patty in the back, great. Now, you're not very far from Stetler, are you? Stetler, would you stand and be recognized? All of them, right from the heart of Alberta. If you, ladies and gentlemen, would please follow the sergeants at arms in lockstep to the track. I'm sure between the two of them. Oh, there's the runaway. There's the runaway. Run, cut, boy, run. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, what you've witnessed is the most exercise that Kinsman has done in 3 years. He has a motto that I share. Why be in shape when you can be one? And hair is a shape. All right, I think we've got it under control. We're going to put some fresh blood in there. We're going to kick a few out. And we're going to keep this thing going, because where are we going? That's right. We're at 74%. We've still got some time to go. Thank you very much.
Okay, at this time I'd like to get a motion from the floor to destroy the ballots. Where's, we got the Cornwall Kinsman. Seconder will do Brendan Devine. What club do you represent? Okay, at this time of the afternoon, we're going to go into what you've all been waiting for, a very exciting National Board of Directors report. So, is that what, the adjourned meeting? So, I'm not going to take a long time to go through this report. Oh, yeah. Question? All in favor? All opposed? So what we've done over the last number of years with board reports and operational reports is we've kind of set up where we're going to go, take where the association's been, and where we're going to go. So obviously I'm going to tell you what we did last year. We're going to start off the street saying where we're going to go. We're going to do an operational piece with Grant, and then we're going to finish it up with National President-elect Terry, and she's going to let you know where we're taking the association in the next 12 months. So what we said last year, National Convention is the National Board was going to work on succession, board education, communications, the ED evaluation, the accredited delegate piece, and certainly club culture. So what I wanted to do is put on the screen what these committees, because we have committees on the national board that specialize in certain areas of what we do as a board to move the association forward. So I thought it was important to put on the screens what these committees accomplished as a whole this year. It was actually a great exercise. What we do as a board is we do something called terms of reference. So at the beginning of the year, we set up terms of reference for these committees, and that's essentially their goals. And they get to work on this all year long. And these are some of the goals we achieved this year. You know, we reviewed the board makeup. We looked at, the national director application, and obviously this weekend was a great success for that process. And we know that it's moving the association forward, and that was something that was on the table for years. And I'm very happy to be a part of the board, or the multiple boards that was able to take that to that point. We investigated the return of a 2-year term, because that's certainly one of the things that is back on the table. We went to a 3-year term because we wanted to educate the board members. Well, going to a skills-based board, that takes that piece out. And maybe going to a 2-year term is a way to attract more people to the national board, which is important in moving the association forward. We did a board best practices, and we identified the steps that this committee is going to take for next year. So great accomplishment with the governance committee, and succession and planning, and that was actually led by Kim and Aaron Thompson. The education and audit committees, again, the board needs to be educated. We put educational pieces in to help develop our board. Any board worth its salt needs to invest back in their board. And that's how we move that board. We increase the skill sets, increase the qualities of those board members. So we developed a matrix to represent the baseline knowledge of skills. When we go out this fall to look for new national directors, because we're replacing 4 again, we're going to go and actually go out to the membership and say, these are the skills or the competencies that we're going to need to replace on the national board. And that's really important because we have 9 core competencies, and it's important to have a blend of all those competencies on the board. So you have someone that's knowledgeable and well-versed in a particular area. We've developed training materials to address these competencies. We set up an online forum to follow up with individual board members, and we developed this process for evaluating the board. Communications was led by none other than National President-elect Terry McCannell. She did a fantastic job. We did the continuation of Inside the Boardroom, which has turned out to be a great piece for Canada in terms of us getting out into social media and let members know what's happening inside the board. Because it's important for us to educate you and let you know what your board members are doing and what value it's providing to the association. Last year we talked about the communication side of things. That over the last number of years, the national board has just been pushing information out. And if you look at define what communication is, it's not pushing information out, it's about having a dialogue. So when we developed our breakout sessions this year, we really wanted to have that feedback loop. And we heard that members weren't happy. You come out to our meetings, district FLCs, whatever it is, maybe club presentation. We tell you all this information, you're not telling us the results. So it was really, really important for us to get the results back to you. And so what we did was, on the last grouping of information we pulled, and I think there was like 20 pages of documentation that Terry actually pulled together in a committee, but we reported back. And if you haven't seen the results, you need to go to your district leadership because the results were sent to the entire leadership hub. So if you do have a problem in terms of not seeing the results, certainly reach out to your leadership. And if you're not getting a response, please let us know because it's really important for us. Communication is, it doesn't matter if it's a personal relationship or running a national association. Communication is key. And if you're not getting the information back, we have a problem. And we want to fix that problem. It's really important. Governance, again, this is great stuff, governance. I know everybody loves to dig into policy. So again, we had a busy year with governance. We had a lot of hot topics on our plate, and it was really important for us to try to really move that forward. We updated the global lens policies. We updated or created the National Board guidelines and procedures document, which was really, really important. When Brent came in, he was talking and did some surveys and pulled back some results. And, members didn't feel appreciated. And, the National Awards and Education Committee really helped that by creating an accommodation piece and the member recognition piece. So that was great. But what came out of this was members weren't happy, and there was a fairly high percentage of members that were leaving the association because of internal club conflict. So that is on the board's radar. We've spent an awful lot of time on it this year. It's something that needs to happen. So the conduct and character and community standing policy, we have been into that policy for 10 months straight. It is not accomplished, it's not finished, but it is a #1 priority in Canada. And I probably shouldn't speak for Terry, but that's Terry's deal. But it actually is not Terry's deal, it's the National Board's deal. It's important for us to have the tools in place that make club environments and club culture a positive one. Because the way we grow this association is by having positive clubs from coast to coast that keep members in the club. So the other piece we did is we had some issues with the accredited delegate piece. We created a stakeholder consultation piece earlier in the year that was led again by National President-elect Terry. We had stakeholders from across the country participate, and what you've seen this weekend at inter-district conventions with the revised accredited delegate form and being able to transfer votes or transfer your card was part of the results that came from that piece. Again, we created the document registry, so when we do changes, we now have a document registry, so it's easy to manage and make sure these policies stay updated. Because if we can't keep our house in order, what's the house going to look like at the end? And then another big one for Canada is developing a privacy and confidentiality framework in terms of meeting legislation. That's a primarily difficult task, as legislation is quite different from province to province, and some provinces are a little more lax, and we have provinces like BC that have very, very tight and stringent privacy policies. So that is something that is, again, I'm sure on Terry's radar this year, and it's something that will strengthen Canada. And the HR committee, which is the committee that I will be chairing next year as the past national president, unless Terry fires me, I guess, I don't know, maybe. And so what we did is we developed and implemented an application review process. We created a 360 evaluation of our executive director. It's important to make sure the executive director is on task with what the board sees. And so everybody is in part responsible for this process. So all the national board have received surveys and respond to the questions. The national staff have received a set of questions, and it's important that everybody really participate in this program. These are all confidential, so when you fill out these results, it's not like, oh, look what James answered. It's not that way. We're trying to pull out really good quality information so we can celebrate our successes and also go to the national, our CEO and say, listen, we have a little problem in this area we need you to address. So it's a great way. It's about building team, building strength, and it's a good thing for the association. And as an employee, and I'm sure we're all employees in the room, you'd like to know where you are and how you sit within the corporation. So again, I think it's a really strong thing. We actually did a 2-hour review the other morning, and it was a positive experience for everybody, I think. So Grant's still here. He didn't run out of the room crying, so that's a great thing. So that is what we worked on this year. I'm proud that we have the national board that we have. It's sad to be seeing some of our board members leave, but that is the journey we're on. And I'm sure the new national directors that are coming in are going to have a really great experience. So thank you very much. And now I'll have Executive Director Grant come up and do his operational piece.
Bomb it?
I bombed the bomb.
You bomb it. Oh, it's there. Terrific. All right. So, thank you very much, National President James Felkin. I got to just say, just before I sort of get going, I got to get a little rhythm going. But the amount of social engagement this weekend, the stuff that we're posting, and the amount of work that you all are doing to tell the story of what's going on this weekend has been tremendous. The staff would tell you, and they're probably tired of me saying it, I believe in creating those fear of missing out moments. And when other kids across this country see the fun, the smiles, and all the good things that are happening, it encourages their participation in future conventions. I'm also very glad and happy to see the democratic process take place over the last couple of days. Although a few glitches on the process, the overall reality is, since my arrival to this association, that was my first time I've seen an election between two national vice president candidates, which was great and good to see. I'm hoping it's a sign that this association is engaging more members and pulling more members into taking on leadership roles, as well as watching the national board of director elections go on as well. So I'm very pleased to see all that taking place, and congratulations to all those who were involved in that process, and thanks for stepping up and showing some leadership. So without much further ado, and I use that word a lot, I just want to talk a little bit around the year that we've had and sort of the year that we're going. And on your tables, you're going to find a couple of different documents. The first document is on membership. We just put a few copies out. We As I said yesterday, we had 3 districts accrue within the association, District 6, District 2, and District 4. And those numbers are expressed in the chart there. The one number that I'm really interested in, I track very carefully, is our member retention. I believe member retention is a good indication in terms of how this association is doing in making its members feel good. And we all know that if members are feeling good, then they tend to stick around. In the last 2 years, since 2015, we actually have seen a 3.8% improvement in retention. That as a guy who's dealt in membership numbers throughout his whole career, I can tell you 3.8% over 3 years is excellent. So let's keep up that good work. Again, I'm hoping that's an indication that we are starting to do or continuing to do some things right to increase member satisfaction. The next thing was the number of clubs. This was a little disheartening. In the last 3 years, we've seen 27 clubs disappear from our association. Those are our brothers and sisters that have disappeared. Funny though, the stat that I didn't share with you is that the club size of our association is increasing by 1/10. So we're recruiting 1/10 extra person. Not sure how that looks in the clubs, but so while we are seeing a decrease in the number of clubs, we are seeing our club size increase a little bit. This past year, in the last 12 months, we had 2 new charters happening out of District 2, the north of 56 Kin Club, and the Treherne, Kin Club, that was just recently approved by the board. Oh boy, I'm just really messing this up. Well, like I said, there was trouble keeping it in the room. So they were approved by the board, and their charter night's taking place, I'm hoping, in September. So congratulations to that. Building strong clubs remains the focal point of our operational roadmap. We'll focus on keeping more charters alive. So I think the next question a lot of people, I get a lot, is there a membership plan for the association? And it is. And I put it all under the term organic growth. And basically what we're focusing on is doing many things really well, but not big swing for the fences things. We are just sort of focusing on, what are those things that can really make a difference in the lives of our members, that help them feel more appreciated and want them to stick around. So member appreciation is a big thing. You hear a lot, and you're going to hear a little bit more a little later on in this around education and training, just how important that is, not in terms of just creating stronger kin members, but also those skill sets that they can take outside the association. And I think I hear this so often that when people say, I am where I'm at today at work or wherever else they put their play into because of what they learned at kin. So we want to do a little bit more on that to create more value added to being a member. We're also going to talk about service a little bit, and well, not a little bit. Service. One of those things when I came into this association is, quite frankly, you guys do it so well. I had to really scratch my head to figure out what more could we be doing to enhance service within this association. We got a few thoughts on that, and we've actually started down that road, and we'll talk about that a little bit. And Marcom, we're marketing and communications. We are taking our marketing and communication strategy a little bit outside the ordinary. The reality for this association is that we don't have $500 or $1 million to run media campaigns. So we have to take a look and say, what is our assets with regards to promoting this association and putting our association in the hearts and minds of Canadians? So I'm going to talk about that as well. And of course, building strong clubs, and we've got some things that we'll talk about as well. Last year, I talked about the steely-eyed focus that is required to get us there. We can't deviate from a roadmap, and that's why we put the roadmap in place. And also as well with that roadmap is we also created a number of opportunities for us to take a step away from the roadmap, make sure that we are continuing on in the right direction, and make those course corrections as we go along. So, Leeberry, right. Last year you challenged me from right there, except in a different room in a different location. You remember what that challenge was?
Yeah.
Yeah. Use the mic, please.
I think I generally do, but it was basically saying, here's our roadmap, how are we gonna get there, being specific on metrics, on what we need, what the support is, we need to get there, et cetera.
Yeah. And the other point to that is, when are we going to match our strategic directions along with our budget? So in fact, this past year, we have spent a lot of time pulling in all these ideas that I talk about and all the ideas that come in from our committees and folks like yourself that feed in some really great nuggets of wisdom. We finally sort of organized them into our roadmap. July 28th, we launched the roadmap on the link, and again, it's sitting on your tables today. This roadmap is about a number of people taking part in its development. So first of all, in some instances where I had the expertise in the office, like Lindsay Irvin, who unfortunately left the association just last month, but she put a heck of a lot of work into sort of in putting a vision behind service. We did some work with the Education and Training Committee, and over the last number of years, we've been, or a few years anyways, been talking about where we wanted to take that. And they too took part in developing the portion of the roadmap. There's a lot of consultation that went on. I was keeping the board informed in terms of what we're thinking, where we want to go. And in fact, as things came to light within the roadmap, we'd go back to some of the committees that might be involved and say, hey, is this jiving with you? Can you see yourselves taking part in this and contributing? In fact, when Penny came on board as our National Service Director, the first thing we're trying to do is get that roadmap in front of her and say, you bought into this, and if you haven't, what changes do we have to make? And she basically gave us the thumbs up. It was pretty much aligned with where she thinks service should go within the association. So a long way just to say is that the roadmap just wasn't me sitting in my office pounding away on the keyboard. In some instances we put the white paper together. In other instances we had people develop it, but we all brought it in under the same format. And we continue to consult on it because we know we're not going to get everything right on it, but we needed the starting point. So I want to talk a little bit about member appreciation, and as we talked about, last year we implemented the milestone recognition, which was a baby born under the National Awards and Recognition Committee. Sheila, I'm doing my best. And that program, we weren't sure how the association would respond to it. We found out pretty quickly when some of the decals didn't get out to some people who thought they should get them. So we were pretty pleased with where that recognition program, what it accomplished, and we're going to continue making sure that happens. Our National President Commendation is also a new tool by which we can recognize those members who sometimes aren't recognized through the normal awards and recognition scheme. And we mentioned a couple times this weekend just how many commendations have been issued. We are planning on continuing that. I'm going to show you a couple certificates in a few minutes. Yesterday we handed out some certificates of achievement around growth. I find it kind of funny is that although we do have awards, we still don't have an award that sort of recognize those folks who've done a great job but maybe just didn't quite qualify for the growth award, Ken Pierce award. So we're going to make sure that both districts and clubs are recognized with the certificate of achievement when they do achieve over 100% of their membership, just to let them know we notice. And we think it's important and a good thing that they did so. And we're going to, and for this past year's numbers, we're going to make sure that the district governors have a set of those certificates ready to be handed out at their FLCs. Club Milestone Recognition Program, which is, again, I came into this association trying to figure out why we at HQ would have to wait for a club to come forward and say, hey, can you issue us a certificate and a letter congratulating us on our 75th anniversary or 50th anniversary? I find that odd. So I'm changing that. We are going to start issuing major anniversary certificates to our clubs as they achieve those milestones. And of course, personal and club awards. Honors, sorry. And I'm going to come back to that in just a second. I'm just going to show you this first one. This is the certificate of achievement, a brand new looking certificate. I think which echoes just exactly who we are as an association. Nice graphic on the side. And of course, the milestone recognition for our clubs, which I am very happy with the work that Nadine had done on that to design that. The last part of that was the club honors and the personal awards. Some of the people that received awards yesterday have already got these through email or through social media. These are, I call them, Kincanada's laurels. And we have a new wall out there. You know, we used to get all these plaques and all these trophies, and trophies on our shelves and plaques on the walls. Well, there's another wall. It's a digital wall, and we're not providing that recognition where our members can put their recognition up on their social media sites, wherever that may be. So these laurels will be produced for club and personal awards, and we already started issuing some of them as of yesterday, like I said, and moving into the fall, we'll be doing some catch up on them. And they are there for the individuals and the clubs to put on their digital wall, to let the others know we've done well, we've done good. We think this is a pretty exciting way for in a couple different ways. First of all, again, it shows our appreciation to the clubs for what they do, but also it's a way for them to do some bragging. It's also a way for them to put the word out about just how good they are. And when we're good, we attract people in. So we're kind of excited about that. Last year we introduced KinU, and this graphic that I'm just showing up here we introduced last year, which really gives the breadth of the mandate of the National Education and Training Committee through membership development, fall leadership conferences, vice governor training, district leadership seminar and training academy, a trainer academy, sorry, and leadership academy. This graphic represents the KinU umbrella. But it is also, sorry, when we use the word KinU, it takes this in, but it also takes in the learning management system. And that may have created a little bit of confusion last year, but when we refer to KinU, we're really referring to everything that is encompassed under the Education and Training Committee. I'm just going to cover a few things really quickly. The excitement and direction of the education and training is heading has been felt loud and clear since we first announced our ambitious plans last year. Admittedly, the waypoints on this plan has not come as quickly as we would like. And we've tried to reflect that a couple of times now when we've gone out to look for new members for the committee. We recognize that we have enough decision makers sitting around the table. What we need is people who can help us develop the resources and the tools to be to create the content that we need to move forward. Having said that, we've had some victories along the way. Speechcraft has finally been beta tested in District 6. We give a hats off and tribute to Harry Kingston for his vision around seeing this come to light. As you will know, Harry passed away just a few short weeks ago. And of course, that partnership was not just with Harry, but with Melody, who really took on the beta testing and making sure that we had this program ready to go. And we'll be releasing a note just in terms of what's next, how we further release Speechcraft. So we're it's ready, the resources are ready, and we're just looking for ways in which we can bring it to light at your local levels. The other thing we did this year, which was a critical piece when we talk about capacity building, is in order for the National Education and Training Committee to be able to engage people in developing and helping us get to where we want to get to, we had to make sure we had some training standards. And we really had to define what courses are and what sessions are and what programs are. So we had to sort of rewrite the book on that to say this is what training will look like within the association. And we even went as far as defining PowerPoint presentation standards as well. So that when we engage someone who doesn't normally sit around the table but has the skills that we need to borrow for a short period of time, we can give them all that material and they can work within that framework. So that helps us build a lot of capacity as well. And we are looking for ways to build some content. And I should sort of catch up with myself here. As I mentioned, the Toastmasters program is set to go. We also wanted to find some consistency in this association in terms of what we're delivering through training sessions. So let's talk a great example of where we wanted to find a conflict resolution model that we could train right across this country. And this model actually came out of the Alberta government. We actually talked with the Alberta government to see if we could use it, and they gave us their blessing and of course some parameters around that, which means that we're good to use it. We don't have to worry about copyright on it, and for all intents and purposes, it's a great model that we can start using as our preferred model within the association. We will continue to look for those type of programs where we don't have to write them ourselves, but where we can borrow, get licensed to use, that have a practical application, again, not just within kin, but for when people are in the workforce, they can say, hey, you know what, I just took a conflict resolution course, and here's the gist of it. It's the Alberta government's model, stuff like that, and that counts a lot in the HR departments when people are looking to increase the size of their resume and their skill sets. I'm going to talk a little bit about governor and team readiness, you know, as I said to the outgoing governors today, they were kind of my first set of governors that I saw come into the role as vice governors. I was part of the training that they went through, and of course the now incoming governors were the second set. I think I got a pretty good handle as well as working with the National Education and Training Committee, as well as bringing in a hired gun to help us really bring that training to, I think, a better place with regard to preparing our governors for the role that they got coming up. For those who have served in the role of governor, you know being on track from day one is critical to a successful year in the NETC. Is there to get the next generation of governors to the starting blocks. And already what we started to do, and it's sort of in the roadmap, which talks about how do we prepare people for the roles. What would traditionally happen is we bring governors in for one weekend in September, and then say thanks and send them on their way. And it's really up to them for the rest of the year to sort of get themselves in place. We bring teams back in not the teams, but the local teams back in for DLS training. We're going to start syncing that up in such a way that training will start almost from the moment that we know that they've been elected to the position of vice governor, by reaching out, making sure they know the supports are in there for them, as well as we're going to continue bringing them on in September. And but before they come into September, they're going to have some reading materials and some resources and some pre-coursework to do to ready themselves, so that the time we spend with them is well spent. We're bringing them back for an extra session to focus on planning and to bring together the DLS training and the governor training, so that when they go back and DLS training is about to happen, it's them that is leading the DLS training with their team, with the help of a facilitator to help them through that process. That's the long-term vision of that. I'm going to pick that up in a few more minutes because there's another piece to that as well. Improve, well, here we are. We're going to talk about that right now. So included in that is not only we're going to do a better job of getting the governor ready for taking on the job July 1, is that we also think by the time they get to that position that they still need the support that we may at the National Education Training Committee may not be able to provide. So we want to start identifying mentors for them or executive coaches from anywhere across the country who they can link up with and not to learn how, or not to be coached on how to run a district, but be coached on how to lead their people. So we want to continue providing that support to our governors, again, so that they can get the most of their time. I think that's one thing I've really noticed is that one-year term on a governor, it just seems that by the time they get rolling, the year is almost over. So we want to get them rolling at day one type of thing. The other part, in terms of how we're improving district support, is you know, we hired Lindsay King. Hey, there we go. Lindsay really took to the role really quickly, and she's been focusing on struggling clubs, working through the governors in terms of helping to identify those clubs that may need some extra help, a little extra support. And she, like I said, she took to that very quickly, as well as. And I think the key here is getting her recognized as a resource to clubs who need some help, and a partner with the districts in order to get those resources in place for those clubs to be successful. We were quick to recognize the work that was being done by Rick in District 4, who really initiated a network for the DMDs right across the country. And it was a catapult for Lindsay in order to sort of say, that's a good way for her to get connected with that network. We're going to continue on with that. We also recognize that district membership directors didn't quite, district membership directors didn't quite capture their actual job or what we had hoped they would do. There's no consistency across the country in terms of what they're doing. We saw the beginnings of a manual for district membership directors, but we've also changed the name, and it's not happened right away in all the districts, but in most of the districts so far, they're now called district club support directors. And if that doesn't explain what they're supposed to be doing on an annual basis, I don't know what will. So we want to make sure that people understand that those folks are there to help them be successful as well. So thank you, Rick, for that. That was a good jumping part, and glad to see that we'll still have you within reach through another network this year. So thanks for that. So, is my time up? So, I feel like I'm in the speaking competition. What does that mean? So it's yellow light. Okay, like we mentioned, the KINU, the learning management system, was probably a very, well, it's not probably, it is a very lofty ambition for this association, and it's also our most challenging. I asked our committee where they felt the system was at, and we've had, I think we had a range of responses come back from the committee, but we've had some really good test flights with really positive results. JM actually in his speech today mentioned some of the stuff that he's been involved in with regards to the technical side and building of our presentations. We have a 5-module risk management program that's ready to be launched with just a few minor tweaks. That will also include quizzing and stuff like that every member can take to have a better understanding of how to manage risk management within their club or zone or district. That, funny enough, is that was one of those ones I thought, oh yeah, we'll just be able to do that right that. That's taken almost 2 years to come together. So, like I said, our ambition and our capacity were a little bit off, but we're finding those ways to overcome that. So I would anticipate, well, not me, you should be anticipating over the next few months content to be building rather steadily. Not just with the risk management stuff, but the other content that we got coming on. And Terry is still here, hanging around, so you can corner her. Mel is still here, so you can corner her. And Lee, our newest addition to the committee, is there, and he was our hard gun, by the way, around the governor's training. So. KINU is boundless, as you'll see from the roadmap, and I believe it's a critical element to the future branding of our association. So I want to talk right now about service and service reporting. So this year, 77%, as you heard, 77% of our clubs participated in service reporting this year. That is awesome. So we got a lot more work to do. We're trying to figure out how we can compel, in a good way, our clubs to provide us that information, because what is really important to this association in terms of being able to brand itself is to be able to tell the stories that happened out there. You'll read in our roadmap that we started the beta testing and the building up of our projects database, and that is, again, I believe it may be just 1 or 2 weeks away from going live, and that is a place where if you are looking for a service project, you can go to the national website, go into that service project database and look through what exists right now. 50 projects. We're hoping to grow that exponentially over the next year, and it's as boundless as you want it to be, so, or as endless as you want it to be. So we want to hear what those projects are. We want to get them loaded in that. So if you're dry on ideas or need some inspiration and want to see what the rest of the country is doing, it will be a good place for you to go to find that out. It's not as simple as just putting a database up online. It does take a little bit of work. It was the inspiration of Lindsay when she was still with us to make sure that happened, and we still think it's a great idea, and it's certainly the way we want to go. One of the things, and at the start of my little presentation here, one of the things you heard me talking about was, what do we do with service? Like I said, you guys do it so well. There's so many experts across this country. You know more about service and projects than I can. It's unbelievable. But there is something we should be able to do at the headquarters with regards to that, and that's to develop a little bit more expertise in terms of understanding community development. So there's a number of different models that we could look at to sort of say, when a club wants to do more, or a club is looking to leverage its assets within the community but does not quite know how to do that, who should they or who can they turn to? We want to be that headquarters service center where they can turn to and say, we need some help. Asset-based community development is a really good example where there's some basic concepts. We're not looking to make experts out of clubs on this. We're looking to provide expertise to clubs when they want to do something a little bit differently, or if they want to take it to the next level. So we're going to help, and that should be reflected in our next hire. So we're in the middle of the hiring process right now. So hopefully by mid-September, we will have our next national service projects coordinator in place. The exploration of new partnerships is also critical for that. I believe, well, I live to what you guys talk about, which is, serving the community's greatest need, but I also think we need to be on the lookout for what that need is. Yesterday, as an example, we brought in my class needs. Clapping, how was that for you guys? Is that the right track for us? Is that something? As I said yesterday, I want to be a broker of ideas. I want to bring these ideas to you, and I want you to provide that guidance back to me. Those are the right. If that's the right direction we should be looking at. We don't want to force anything, but what we want to do is to establish those partnerships with those associations that have been properly vetted and seem to align with our mission, vision, and values, and that are a benefit to you to utilize. So that was what yesterday was about. They left here pretty ecstatic, and I think they're hoping to hear some good news from me next week. So that's just one example. Another example was that at the board level, we brought someone from the outside to talk about their own experiences. And the reason why I bring this up because when we did that, we also blogged about it. And it was the executive director of the Dairy Food Bank who came in and sort of shared with the board his experiences around taking over a food bank that was struggling and the things that he did in order to turn that food bank around. Again, just providing the board, that the exercise in determining what the community's greatest need, but also networking with those other community associations so that we can become stronger. The number one message that came out of that to the board was what he did, what they established, the culture that they started to establish within that food bank was they banished negativity. So build strong clubs is the other part of the roadmap. And folks, I am coming into the one or two last slides, so hang in there with me. Just to give you a reference point, my presentation in 2015 was 35 slides. In 2016, it was 28 slides. This year I'm down to 19, so I'm heading in the right direction. Build strong clubs. This is really about the club support committee and the type of support we do provide our clubs out there. And this year we saw the launch of the mentoring program and some of the support materials that are going along with that. What I do know in the association is that that's not the first time we've launched a mentoring program. We're in this program for the long haul. We're not going to let it go. Whether one or two people are using it or 1,000 people are using it, it needs to be continually reinforced and part of our toolbox. Congratulations to the Club Support Committee for bringing that to life. And also the new member passport, which there may be some floating around. This is a professional looking passport. It looks real. And it's a way for a new member to, it's a tool for a new member to capture and record the first couple of years of their life in kin. It does not go well in the wash, rather than that. And we also, funny story on that, when we were developing it, we actually had it looking like the Canadian passport, and we really debated whether we should change the color of it. And we changed the color of it because I decided I did not want to get that call from an airport from a member who was angry because he grabbed the wrong passport trying to leave the country. So, the club health assessment, and just to demonstrate that ideas can come from anywhere, District 7, 4 years ago, started the development of a club health assessment, and really, our self-assessment really was a tool by which clubs can engage themselves against 89 different points, and we stole it. We just took it away from them, and like thieves in the night. The Club Support Committee worked with it, sort of rejigged it just a little bit to be more national in its terminology, that it wasn't specific to District 7. So thank you, District 7, for the work that you did on that. It is a tool, by the way, that clubs are slowly finding, and when they are, when they think they're operating really well, they're sort of discovering they actually have some work to do. And it's not me, and they're discovering that not as a downer. They're discovering it as a way, wow, we do have some work to do, and we didn't know we had this thing burning within our club, and now we can address it. So we're kind of exciting that it's actually catching on a more organic, so to speak, is that the clubs are finding the document and finding its usefulness. We're not touting it as something, you know, that you need to do type of thing. So we're pleased with where that's going. District club support directors, I've talked about that in terms of changing the name, making sure that they have clear understanding in terms of what their roles are, not taking away from the district in terms of what their the relationship and accountability between them and the governor, but we are helping to provide some more direct support for that in terms of the wiki, which is their handbook, and still more work to be doing on that. And Doug Christensen, who is a exit survey expert. This year, we now have exit surveys that can be utilized by clubs and members leagues and also see what's going on. The other thing that we implemented this year through Lindsay was when a club does pull, and hopefully she doesn't have to do too many next year, she will reach out to that club and say, listen, when you want to talk, let's talk about what went wrong, or you know, how did you get to the point where the club had to fail, so that we can help prevent that from happening in the future. So we're just starting to see some data come through on that now. There is more on the horizon for that committee, but right now they have what I would say is 6 really good programs and projects that just continue to need that reinforcement and tweaking as we go along. So this is my last slide. Marketing and communication, or as I call it, MarCom. We are changing the way in which we market this association. So, one of the first things we did this year was we wanted to make sure that the members could engage with the leadership of the association in such a way that, well, in a variety of different ways. First of all, we implemented Ask the Experts buttons on the website. So if someone had a question specific to training, specific to the board, specific to whatever element within the national operation existed, that they could just hit that button on the website, a form would come up and they could fill that form in, and then that question would directly go, it's not filtered anywhere, it would directly go to the right person. That way that communication sort of remains sort of private between the two people, and again, was just another vehicle by doing that. We introduced the corporate Facebook page, the link, which serves us as a way to be able to communicate in a moderated way, and for us to allow both the leadership of the association, but also our employees of the association can participate in dialogue on that Facebook page. So we see the link growing every week, and we're really happy with where that's going. But we want to do a better job, though, is telling our story. Blogging is just one of the ways, and I mentioned about the Very Food Bank coming in and us blogging that story. But there's so many different things that exist out there, or different stories that exist out there, that we want to bring in to a structured a little bit differently in terms of moving forward. So it starts with you in terms of the stories that you have to tell, but it also starts with Google. And our ultimate goal is that when someone is out there who's never been involved in community development or service projects and decides they want to build a playground in their schoolyard, but don't know how to do it, and they plug in building a playground schoolyard, that we appear on the first page, kincanada appears on the first page of Google. That's how we're going to start getting our brand out there, by establishing ourselves as experts in a whole number of different areas. So over the next year, we're going to be building that structure. We're going to be engaging our memberships in terms of helping to tell those stories. And we're going to share our expertise, whether they're PIN members or not. And that's how we're going to sort of build a brand. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on that because the roadmap does spell it out a fair bit. But it is a little bit of a different way in terms of how we're going to position ourselves. We do not, like I said earlier, have the amount of money that it would take to keep ourselves in the minds of, and hearts and minds of the public on a consistent basis. So we have to go into it through a little bit of a different. The other part that we're really going to focus on this year is our internal communications. I've always said, no matter how well we do it, we never do it well enough. And right now, our website as it stands kind of serves 2 different purposes. It serves our membership in terms of a place to go to find out information, but it also is a landing pad for the people who come in from the and look, who want to know a little bit more about Kin Canada. We're going to strip down the website so that it is a landing pad for people who want to know more about our association, a place they can come to hear some of the stories, to find some of that expertise. But we're also going to work toward establishing something called an intranet. Well, funny enough, intranet is where it all began years and years ago, and we sort of like corporate North America drifted away from those internets and went to websites, only to find they still have problem communicating internally. So the internet has actually reemerged itself. So we are committed a partnership with Terry and I around getting an intranet site established within this association. It's an internal for all members to be able to be kept up to date on a weekly basis, or however often we decide to do that, on what's happening within the association. It enables us to get the information to the grassroots, unfiltered by some of our filters out there, and it creates a more direct link between the association and the membership. We have a tremendous amount of stuff going on. The roadmap was a way to demonstrate to you that we're not standing still, that there is a plan in place. And Terry's going to come up here in just a moment to talk about the future with regards to how the board is moving ahead and in mutual support of our goals. But what I also want to say is, again, back to the challenge that Lee gave me last year, is that when is our strategic direction going to match up with our direction going to match up with our budget, or vice versa, sorry. And this is the year. We put forward a budget that is the starting point to us be able to accomplish the things that we've laid out in that document. I do believe it's the right direction, and I'm going to, a little later when the budget comes up, I'm asking you for your support in order to get us started in that right direction. And yeah, that's where I'm at. I'll take some questions. I got a minute or two. Anyone? Kin Sean, are you? Sean? Yeah. I take it there was no questions. I lulled you all into sleep. Good.
Good job, Grant.
Thank you.
Family of Kin, you've heard about the Kin Canada Foundation a number of times over the weekend, whether it is through the Kin Assist program and the donation that was made yesterday, or through the story that Helen told of how it touched her family, that the foundation could help when Jay was undergoing treatment for PTSD. So the foundation goes back to 2005, but the staple personnel of the foundation for all of those years has been quietly working in this behind the scenes, working for the foundation, just because she's such a wonderful person. And at this point in time, on behalf of the foundation, I would like to call Carmen up, because we have a plaque to appreciate her for all of the work that she has done for us. And so it says, presented to Carmen Preston in grateful recognition of your contribution and support to the Kin Canada Foundation, August 2017. And just like Carmen supports us through her words and deeds, every club can support us financially so that we can continue to provide support to individuals through Kin Assist, to multiple sclerosis, to a variety of different things that we can do. So please, when you go back to your clubs, tell them about how the foundation is running parallel. Think of us as the trunk route to the roadmap, so we're here to support Kin Canada throughout its future. So thank you.
Hey, this guy took down a boy from the
Sounds like some disrest in the pot there. Governor Dave Tidbury, are you here? Please come on. What I said before, blah, 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 blah. Thanks, Dave, for your work with the National Education and Training Committee. I also will say, Dave, since the day I came on, you have always been there to provide me sage wisdom.
With the short emails?
No, not very short emails. When I can't sleep, I'll open up my emails, and no, Dave always has some great wisdoms and historical perspective that I found so useful. So thank you. And just because I won't have the opportunity to say this later, your staff has been working very hard these last number of weeks to make sure that the committee's been supported, that all that stuff can happen well, and that everything would go smoothly as possible. So thank you to them. Thank you to Lindsay and Jen for being here, and I think they're overwhelmed with the experience. And finally, I didn't get a chance to thank Terry Iredale for coordinating all day's education program. Thank you, Terry. It was a great day, I think.
National President James, fellow Ken, finally. Why did they wait for me to be the last one today? Not sure. So this is our future. Yesterday, hopefully most of you noticed that I had a shirt on that said, "Don't look back, we're not going that way." I truly believe that we're only going forward, and all of you and the other 6,000 plus members are the ones that are going to take us there. I also took from what Lee said last year, and really finding it important that what the board is doing is aligning to the strategic plan. We rolled a strategic plan out in 2014, and the board's been working very hard to ensure that our members and what we said we would deliver on, we are. So before I get into talking about what the future will be, I just want to explain a little bit more about the committees on the board and what they do. It's like going to a job every day. The committees do, they have a certain set of goals that they are committed to look at every year. So whether it be policies, whether it be the communications, sort of building FLC reports, we know exactly what you need to do. On top of that everyday work that the board does, we're looking for new ways, obviously, that align with our strategic plan. And this year I'm looking at communications, board education, policy coordination, change management, and we're looking at revising the strategic plan as far as the financials go. So just as a reminder to all of you, I have aligned it on all the slides. I'm not going to read it, and this report will be available after. But what our strategic goals were back in 2014 and currently are is programming, enhancing our programs and services for our common needs of the clubs. Stakeholder, Kincanada will be the first choice service organization, and organizing capacity to ensure that we have the skills and infrastructures necessary to meet the common needs of our club, and the financial commitment with diverse revenue. Kincanada will increase the operating budget to $1.5 million by 2018. So when we talk about communication, in the recent years, the board's always given a presentation at FLC and district conferences, and we find a lot of value in doing those presentations with our members, because we know that we don't get all of our members there, but it is an opportunity for you to hear what we're working on, and for you to give us feedback on whether we're in the right direction or not. That will continue this year, although we are a bit challenged. Typically, our national directors have presented within the district that they live for these conferences. With the way that the board has gone in the new direction, we may not have a national director living in each district anymore. So in order to save some costs and what makes sense, I, as a national director, will be traveling to most of the FLCs and the national and the district conferences. So I will be presenting the board report to save on costs. Then we'll be looking at possibly the national vice president. So he or she gets that opportunity to get out there more in the face of our members, and then any national director or past national presidents that what makes most cost effective of being there. We also been exploring the internet. Grant just spoke a little bit about it. We've had a lot of chats about this year. Over the last 2 years of being on the board and trying to figure out a communication strategy. You know, we've tried emails, Facebook. Everybody's different, and I think as much as social media and everything is fantastic, it's also a challenge to us then to figure out how to reach each of our members. So I work at a company that I work with have an internet, and it's really all the information's there. It's all in one spot, and you know what I'm interested in, I can go and look at, and what that the next person is. I see us more as an association. Every club is different. We know that every district is different. What I'm interested in, like I know there's not a lot of people interested in policy, or information, but if you are, you would have the opportunity to go in and look at whatever you wanted. So that's really excited about working with Grant this year. And it's just not from the national board perspective, from the operations, from our national committees that are always working and trying to get information out to our members. So it's for all levels of kin on this new process. Board education. We talked a lot about that in the last couple of years. We've done a lot of work on the board and laying the groundwork of what that would look like through the competencies, all of that. And this year we did some, we're going to be introducing, it's called Board Source. And it's really for a nonprofit board. It's all types of webinars, training, and a very minimal cost for individual members, $129. So each board member will have access to Board Source this year, which will allow them to kind of work at their own pace. They can work through modules that, if they're on the communication committee, it helps with that. And it also allows us as the board to collaborate together. We're looking at gender thinking and our visionary thinking. So pretty excited about that and the opportunity for our new board members. Policy coordination, not so exciting, but it's a necessary evil. The GOB and the national policy procedures are overall governing documents. But the bottom line is that HQ, the board, we really don't know what policies or bylaws or house rules that each of our club are using. In general, clubs, they can have in their bylaws that, or anything like it. That's what our national policies and procedures say, that the clubs must have this policy or something like it. Well, what something like it is may not really be what we need it to say. So we really need to, this year, we're going to be looking at some sort of a template that will aid our clubs or our districts to say, and it would look something like, here's all the policies of the national board, and then it will allow you to be unique underneath, whether it be your district or your club. So you just need to fill in the blanks, whether you pay for someone to go to national, those types of things. So it allows you to be unique, but the standard basis of policies so that we stay aligned within this association is consistent. I mean, sometimes when our clubs get into trouble or they have questions and they're looking at their bylaws, the first thing you do when you phone HQ and say, can you help me, or your deputy governor, your governor, can you help me? The question will be, which policy are you following? And it should always align with the national policy. So that's really important. Not maybe, the end result for you guys is that you be clear and concise which policies you will be using. Change management, another not exciting topic for you guys, but also necessary. Change management guides how we prepare, equip, and support individuals successfully adopt change in order to drive the organizational successes and outcomes. Change is hard for everyone, but we all know, I know we agree in this room, that change is inevitable for our association. But it's really, it's to be expected, but if we do it properly, then people seem to accept it better. So we're really going to be working on developing a change management plan, which means there's a standard that says if you're going to change anything, so what the board's going to change policies, national awards committee is going to change an award, operations is going to do something, our members need to know about it. And so having a standard, I'm not sure what it will look like, but that's exactly what it is. It's a standard that says when you open it, you will know that there's a change in some sort of policy or whatever it might be in the association. So it's really important. People, I think, will accept change more if they're aware of it, and most of the time if they're involved in it. Finally, the strategic plan, the financial portion of it. So our goal back in 2014 was to increased diversified operating budget to 1.5 million by 2018. Obviously, we are not on track to reach that goal, and we will be looking at maybe a more realistic view on the revenues and more smaller incremental goals. Just for an example, I mean, we have to discuss this fall and it will be revised, but as an example, maybe it's dues, like having 10%, and by 2018, we rely on dues revenue that by 10% less within the district or within national. So we need to look at that. We are not on track with that, and so you know, up next year or even as we develop this in the fall, we will get that information out to you guys and what that might look like. I just want to mention as well, because of the new plan of the national directors, typically we have the opportunity to train our national directors at a national convention, or at least do some sort of work with them. With the new process, we don't have that ability to do that anymore. So we've had to create a training process this year. So come Monday morning when we're all home, if that kicks in already, we'll be spending many video conferencing hours in the next couple of weeks with our new directors and the board as a whole to ensure that they get up to speed and they have everything that they need to move forward. I also really want to thank all of the 7 candidates that put their name forward this year. It was a new process. We rolled it out this year. We knew it wasn't perfect, and we'll be looking to all of you to give us some feedback on that so that we can get it better. We will have another election next year, so we want to ensure that, you know, some of the ideas, and it's more around the campaign and the ability to get out there and get our members to get to know you better. So we had a few struggles with that, and so we really want some feedback from our members. So thank you for participating in that this year. That's it. It doesn't seem like much for that.
Before we move on to get into the budget, I think I want to get Sean living up here. I've been watching what's been going on, and you know what, you people are amazing. I love Kincanada, and Sean, I think you have some good news.
We're not done yet.
We're not done.
President James, guest, fellow Kim, would you like to see a total? Yeah. Do you remember what we set as a goal this morning? 25,000. Now I want to tell you a little bit about math here. This is the math of the difference between the way politics used to be done and the way politics became done when Obama came into office in the U.S. Prior to Obama, you know, everybody went out to big donors and they got $5, $10, you know, $500,000 donations. Obama came along and he said, I'd rather have $50 donations from a lot of different people. This is, I think, what we need to focus on when we're doing our fundraising. Less amount, but a bigger amount. And I just want to give you a bit of math from today. Now our top contributors so far, the young fellows from the Kinsman Club of Edmonton. God bless them. Where are you, boys? They've done an outstanding job. They've had 5 donations totaling $5,160. Outstanding. That's the highest donation of $1,082. And there's nothing to sneeze at about that. But I want to share some more math with you. Lee Burry, who was our first incarceree this morning, one of our slowest, he took a little bit to get going. But once he got going, he had 24 donations, raised $2,020. That was the goal we were seeking this morning. Rob Bateman, are you in the room, Rob? Rob raised over $700, had 22 donations with an average donation of $33.22. Now, John, are you ready? Drum roll, right? Don't do it yet, John. Drum roll. So we got that coming.
And that's one of the things I want to remind you folks, those that have been in the cage this morning and have a profile set up. We're not done. Nobody knows you're out. They don't know you're out until 8 o'clock tonight, 9 o'clock, so just keep it going, keep that fundraising going. Let's raise more money for MS. And I think this is probably our last report. So on behalf, I know there was, actually, if I have the opportunity, Mr. President, I know that Bruce Lloyd and Sean Thompson, I believe you boys were cooking up a little scheme. Do you guys want to come up here and share anything with us real quickly? We'll do this real quickly, and then I think we can wrap up. Just Bruce, sorry, just Bruce. Member of BS Productions, he's the B, I'm the S.
Thank you very much. There's a little bit of chit-chat and yabber-jabber and whatnot about past national presidents, whatnot, not all being in the cage. For those that whined, I have immunity. So, what I'm proposing is anybody in the room that has sat on the Kin Canada Foundation, could you just stand up and be recognized? That's it? Anybody past, present? Thank you very much. Would you please make your way to the table?
Bruce, we often agree or we rarely disagree as we sit in the balcony. But in the interest of time, I'm concerned by the fact that we're almost wrapping up today's meeting, and these people couldn't literally be in there until 9 o'clock tonight. Is there anything we could possibly do to save them the long walk to the cage?
Nope. Especially the ones that have been there already.
Land. Guys, you start doing something for this organization? Perhaps we can save you a walk of shame on behalf of the Kin Canada Foundation. I would like to do a catch and release and present our Sergeant at Arms with a check for $1,500 from the foundation.
Listen, the foundation, we've heard, as Sean mentioned just a few moments ago, we've heard some very inspiring, very emotional stories here this weekend and week as to how the foundation is making an actual difference in the lives of so many people, both kin and non-kin. It's wonderful to see the foundation get money out. We've seen it, I think, 3 times already this weekend. And it's very important that they get that money out, but it's equally as important that we put money in. So I urge you, when you go back to your clubs, please consider making donations to the Kin Canada Foundation. Please consider sharing that idea with your family and friends. They do need the money so that they can continue to do the fantastic work that they're doing. With that, that's going to raise our total up in around the $28,000 range, I think. And I applaud each and every one of you on behalf of the Kin Canada Coast Guard and Stampede City Kinsmen and Kinettes. Thank you for indulging us. Thank you for doing that.
Math in my head was 28.2, probably even higher. Incredible, incredible, incredible.
Phenomenal.
I'm trying to, it's like an intervention. I'm trying to work on that. How's everybody going? You want to keep going, or do you want to take a quick break? What do you want to do? Keep going? Okay. Grant is just, exactly. Grant is just run out of the room and grab Carmen. She's going to be up in a few minutes, and we're going to go. Oh, there she is. Perfect. Exactly. So I'll have Carmen come up, and we will do the national budget presentation.
Yeah. National President James Kin. I just want to give a little bit, before Carmen comes up to go through the budget with you, I just want to give you a little bit of a glimpse into the process this year. We were late getting the budget out. That wasn't intentional. It was just by happenstance. Challenged again by Lee Burry to make sure that we had started moving in the direction of matching our strategic directions, or sorry, our budget to our strategic directions. I was determined not to bring forward a budget until we figured that out. As well as we had to find ways to fund some of the initiatives that we wanted to do. So it did take a lot of time. There was a lot of back and forth between Carmen, our in-house bean counter, and me, and also just sort of nailing down the roadmap where we wanted to be. So my apologies on that. It's not my way of doing things. I prefer to have budget out a lot sooner so that you guys can talk about it at your spring conventions and stuff like that. So I just ran down the hall a little bit. So I'm not as emotional as I think I should. So the other part of that is that we did want to also make sure that we found creative ways by which we could fund what we wanted to do. And part of that was taking a look at how we do the dues bill and stuff like that. You'll see that within that. So again, just wanted to make sure you understood is that it wasn't intentional to bring this out so late. We just wanted to make sure we had a good product to put in. So Carmen, who is our operations manager at the headquarters, is the one that does all the work around getting the budget together, and she'll walk you through it right now. Thanks,
Hi, everyone.
Hi.
So obviously, you guys know I'm Carmen Preston, and I'm the operations manager. I've been working on the budget as a lead for 21 years, so I'm very well familiar with it. And every year it's a challenge. I'm aware that you guys work very hard. I understand that dues are an issue, maybe not for all clubs, but for some. And I want to assure you that we are doing our best to try and ensure that what we deliver is something that benefits your club, that allows us to move forward so that we can continue to grow. So we're investing in a couple of things this year. Sorry. There we go. Is that better? Yeah. This year we're going to focus on getting more kin-related modules onto our online through KinU. There is some that are almost ready, and they're to do with risk management, and they should be ready, I think, within the next couple of weeks. Club support coordinator. Last year, Lindsay came in halfway through our year. This year, she's full-time, and the full-year continuation of her being in her role, we can start to realize the benefits of maintaining year-to-year support on struggling clubs. As well, with undivided attention to the club support committee, we are enjoying greater productivity from this committee, as outlined in Grant's report. Club appreciation. The National Awards and Recognition Committee introduced 2 new programs last year, the Milestone Recognition and the National President Commendation Letters. These programs are continuing again this year. We have a role in perpetuating member pride and satisfaction, and we are continuing to expand the ways by which we acknowledge both club and member milestones and accomplishments. The service project database has now gone through some testing. I did some review of it just last week, and it is pretty well ready to go. And it will be available online in early September. Clubs will have the benefit of looking online through different ideas. You can also look at club size, what you're trying to do, how much money you're trying to raise. It's very user-friendly, and I believe it will be a benefit to clubs. There's a notable investment being made in readiness of governors and their teams, so that they can assume the role better prepared with a plan in hand. This will require a shift away from the traditional method of training, where more emphasis is placed on synchronizing plans between district and national. So what's the impact? Governor training will be happening as it normally does in September, but an extra training weekend has been scheduled to provide more enhanced training and preparation. With the ever-changing world of communications and how people want to be connected to the organization, a decision has been made to discontinue Kin Magazine. A greater emphasis will be placed on electronic and social media sharing to convey the stories of the association, and we will begin to explore establishing a Kin Canada intranet site, which Grant talked about. Missed 2 notes. The National Committee and the board met in Cambridge during March this past year. This allowed for opportunities for everyone to work together on vision and direction of the committees. With productivity as a gauge, fellowship, and some educational elements, overall the whole weekend was a great success, and it is planned again once again this year. Last year at National Convention, a motion was brought forward on the floor to have a $2 assessment be added to the dues for Centennial Year celebration. This money will allow the Centennial Committee to have some money to do something to highlight the 100th anniversary. Although defeated for this past year, it is now prudent to begin building this fund, as we really do not have extra funds available to do anything extra. We saw a slight increase again this past year with our insurance premiums. Membership numbers, I think, are the biggest impact on our budget. This year, the proposed budget is calculated based on an average of a club's membership instead of a billing based at the lowest point of a club year. With the old dues billing, we billed as of September 30th, and then any member that left or joined the club didn't get reflected until the next year. So if a club had 10 new members in October, they didn't pay dues for those members until September. Work both ways, but we believe the average is a better way to go. It's allowing everyone to pay their fair share. This will hopefully allow clubs to be more willing to add or remove members when they should, instead of leaving it until September. So what is the bottom line? The proposed dues are $138.56, insurance is $33.42, for a total of $171.98 per member. This reflects an increase of $4.57 from last year. Now $2 of that $4.57 is for the 2020 fund. And that's all I have. I welcome any questions at this time. Mike?
One, two, three, perfect. Awesome. So my name is Yan Chaya from the Edwards and Kingsman. National President James Felkin. Just got a couple of questions here. In terms of the format of your budget, it seems to be a 3-year format.
Yes, it is, and it's more just, we do it as a 3-year format just to do as a projection. The only one that you are approving is for the current year that we're coming into.
Perfect, thanks for the clarification. Just a side note, your date on the top is dated in 2016.
Oh, sorry.
And you want to change that?
We are in 2017.
And then the last and final question is related to what Grant mentioned earlier about having the budget provided as soon as maybe possible. And so I was wondering, what are the ways we can ask questions without having to use the National Convention for this?
Do you mean before, Yannick?
Beforehand, yes, indeed, right.
So
to avoid to
So normally we would, do you mean like afterwards you have questions you want to talk to me, or normally though we would have this out for district conventions, and then it's encouraged, and even on the website it does encourage people, if you have questions, just call me and I'll speak, you can speak to me directly and I'll gladly answer your questions.
Okay.
Okay?
Perfect. you.
Leroy, accredited delegate, Kingston Public Fredericton. Just a general question, not about the specific numbers, but I think sometimes with the difficulty that you spoke to, Carmen, about getting the budget really ready in time, and some of the challenges that go into it. One option or consideration might be to the national board and to staff as well, that if we are looking at potential material changes in future years, as we continue to look at our strategic roadmap, and maybe we are making some really big decisions about training or about support or travel, whatever those things are. Sometimes I think when we get to national convention, the membership may be less concerned about the impact of $1 extra or $1 less, but it's more so about what actually are you adding or what are you taking away. Right. So even if we don't have those numbers finalized, giving members to have an opportunity to discuss those things, be it at FLC or zone or district, would be beneficial for the membership, but I think would also be beneficial back to the board to get a better indication as to how we see those efforts and what type of impact that might have.
Definitely, I agree.
Okay, I'd like to, go ahead.
Bill Rossler, Stainer, and I question the reason for the leading Kid magazine. That thing's been around forever, and I know it's costly, but we've got a lot of older members out there who rely on that magazine. They'd like to see what's going on. I just question the validity of taking it away.
For us, it was more looking at what we're trying to achieve at the office and what we're trying to benefit for the members. The reality is that we only have so much money to leave Kin Magazine in here and then also try and do some of the other things that are within the budget. It would be cost prohibitive. There are other ways of telling the story. A lot of the stories that are in Kin Magazine have already been published within newspapers, they're online. There's stories that have been told, and we're just kind of reiterating stories that have already been shared online or through other media. So we feel that this is the right direction to go, and we will find ways to convey the story just differently.
National President James, guests, and fellow kin, Kevin Carlson from the Kinsman Club of the Paw. I am here as the accredited delegate for the North 56 Kin Club. I understand the premise of why you would want to look at almost a quarterly type of average for calculating dues. But I'm not sure of the rollout of how that would work, because I foresee a problem. Like in the PAW, we have 44 members. In North 56, we have 28 members. So there's a little bit of flexibility on how a club can absorb what could be a sudden change. And if you're in a smaller club, like the Flin Flon Cadets, for example, it could be a very big strain on those members. I'm just trying to figure out how that would work.
Okay, so what we will be doing is we are taking a club's monthly membership from July last year to June 30th of this year. We're adding them together and dividing them by 12, and that's what the average will be, and that's what the club will be charged.
I got a map in the back of the room, sir.
There's your doctor in the back. Okay.
Anybody got Asper?
Yeah.
Yeah, move these tables on. They're doing it. I'm just saying if we need to move up.
Okay, fellow, let's clear out of the room so we can deal with this.